Well, a chase that we thought at half time should be New Zealand's if they start well. It ended up being just Martin Guptill and nobody else. In the end, they've conceded the third game as well to India, 73-run win for Rohit Sharma to start off his tenure as full-time T20I captain with a 3-0 series win. We shall look back at this innings, at this game and series on ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout with Robbie Uthappa and Dan Vettori. Convincing, I guess, Robbie. This might be one of those games that tested India more, that would therefore make the win more satisfying.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they take a lot of confidence from this, um, especially the way the bowlers are bowled, the changes that were made to bring certain bowlers on at certain times, I think were very vital. And Rohit kind of ticked all the right boxes, and kudos to him. I think he led the team well, and we fielded well as well. Getting a couple of runouts always helps in T20 cricket, and just they just didn't turn up as a batting unit after that
Yeah,
first 3 overs.
we can almost understand and forgive New Zealand for not turning up at all in this series if they had to, Dan, can't we?
I think there is an element of sympathy for what New Zealand have gone through. I think they're a product of playing so well for a long time now that they're starting to run into, I suppose, similar issues to India and Australia and England, that they're playing a lot more cricket. So the schedule is jam packed, and you see evidence of that with playing in a bilateral series 3 days after a World Cup final. So I think there is sympathy for them. I think there's not a lot of backlash back in New Zealand around the performance, and they understand that why they're in this situation. But I think that diminishes how well India played today. And I think Robbie was right around. Rohit was fantastic as a captain today. I thought he pulled all the right strings, and whether it starts from the start of the series where they said they wanted to go hard and try and pick a consistent team and try and win 3-0, whatever it was, it culminated today and probably the complete performance. And they put themselves under a little bit of pressure with batting first, and we said that it was slightly erratic innings, but they still got to 180, and then they put together the complete fielding and bowling performance. So it was very impressive to watch.
Yeah, maybe we'll extend on that now as we look at not just this game review, but a review of the series. And you think it still would have been an important one, Robbie, after the disappointment of the World Cup, change in leadership management of the T20I side? How would you rate
Yeah,
this series from Rohit Sharma's point of view?
well, very important for Rohit and for Rahul Dravid as well, because taking up uh, the role that they have in moving Indian cricket forward with the kind of talent that's there to offer, and to kind of chart a path for it at this point in time, with something big coming up at the end of 12 months. So they have to go up and running immediately, and they have, and I think it's all credit to them. Having said that, I think if you can touch upon just the bowlers, I think the bowlers bowled exceptionally well as well. They came up with different plans very clearly compared to the previous match. You could see the way they approached the first 6 overs, the way Bhuvi bowled in the first six. He'll take a lot of confidence from that. I think Rohit will get a lot of confidence from that. The way Venkatesh Iyer bowled, I think will give Rohit a lot more confidence to throw the ball to him in different situations in the future. I think it was a matter of Venkatesh Iyer earning Rohit's respect as far as his bowling was concerned. And I think with the way he bowled today, he actually did that.
Dan?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's the hardest thing for India moving forward is trying to find an 11, because of so many players. So they've given themselves some more options. They understand what they want to do, but ultimately this was about Rohit and Rahul Dravid coming in and setting a tone for how they want to play their cricket, and the starting point towards their World Cup journey in Australia. And I think they will be very sure of their game plans in India, but now they have to reevaluate that and see what's going to work. Is Venkatesh Iyer's bowling good enough in a place like Australia? Those are the things that they need to find out. And so they started that path today by actually giving him a bowl, and seeing what he could do, and seeing whether his all-round prowess can fit into their team moving forward towards that World Cup. So I know it's a long way away before they play again, but it's a fascinating start on their journey to the next World Cup.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm just going to pick, say, two or three players right now because no judgments need to be made 11 months before the World Cup and after this series where you can understand New Zealand not being at their best. But there'll be conversations, Robbie, I guess, about a couple of players. One's Venkatesh Iyer. Dan's made the point there. But have India got enough to have any sort of judgment on him just yet? Or there's going to be, no, this guy's going to be part of our setup and we're going to hope that he grows into Hardik Pandya's role in the next few months?
Well, honestly, he didn't do himself any favors when with the way he batted in the series. He could have possibly been a little bit more circumspect in retrospect. But having said that, I'm so glad he got to bowl so that he could display all of his skills. And I think just the fact that he bowled so well, they will continue to give him a look in, because, like Dan is saying, and I think everybody knows, the amount of talent that's there at an international level in India right now is humongous, and competition within the group itself is so high. So you really want to put your hand up when you get an opportunity, and like for instance how. Deepak Chahar did today with the way he batted in those last 8 balls, right? He literally put his hand up there in the conversation of, I remember Sunil Gavaskar saying you can nurture him to become an all-rounder. That, like, he literally puts his hand up in that conversation again, right? So a lot of things, a lot of competition within the group, and I think it's healthy. I think it's really good, but problems were plenty for Rahul Dravid and Rohit Sharma.
You know what happens, Robbie, when we tell these bowlers they can become all-rounders, then suddenly they get under pressure and stop getting runs. Right now, no one expects them to, so they get it. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that with Dan Vettori because it's 5 a.m. his time, but I'll ask him for a conversation on another player, Rishabh Pant. Good, exceptional day with the gloves, but we're not quite seeing the best out of Pant, the white ball batter anymore. And we touched upon this in the previous games too, Dan. What do you think the conversation would be around Pant?
Yeah, it is a fascinating one because he hasn't got his tempo right in T20 cricket. He hasn't quite understood his role, particularly in this series, and you see it culminate sometimes where he's overly cautious, then he's reckless, and it doesn't feel like there's a flow to his game. And that's whenever you see the great T20 batsman batting well, it is all about flow. It's all about momentum, and you just feel a rhythm to it. And he hasn't quite got that yet. And there could be a number of factors for that, whether he feels like he really understands his role. I'd be surprised if they hadn't talked long and hard to him about exactly what they expect from him. So I think the onus is on him to find that right tempo. And the reality is, if he doesn't, then they can look elsewhere. They can look to Ishan Kishan. They obviously know KL can keep as well in T20. So I think they will give him the opportunity to find that. But albeit knowing that they can change pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's...
If I can throw in my hat in that conversation as well, I think, Rishabh has been on the road with the Indian team for a couple of years non-stop right now, and he's made himself available to play everything and anything without complaining. We haven't heard anything from him, but just thinking back on, I've been in the bubble myself, and like a lot of you guys, and it's not the easiest thing.
Sure.
And to be constantly in a bubble despite you playing game and not playing games, and it takes something out of you, something that's quite hard to describe in just words. It saps you in some way, and I'm certain that also has an implication on the way he performs on the field. Maybe a lack of clarity, maybe mental fatigue, just fogginess in the mind, just to come up with plans that can be executed for him. It could be just that as well, So, as in, he's a high class player, and I think it's a matter of time before he comes back and hits the ball like we know he can, like we know he does. So, I'm sure they'll give him his time, but I think he deserves a little bit of a break right now and to just switch off from cricket, because just cricket fatigue is in itself a real thing, right? I think competitive cricket at that high level for years together without a break, and then you jump in from bubble to bubble, that makes it that much more harder.
Okay, fair enough. There are a lot of players that we can pick up like this, but maybe that will go on all night or all day rather for Dan with it. So let me just throw in names, and you can tell me yes or no with maybe one line if they should be part of the South Africa series, because I guess they'll take it one series at a time now, right? And we don't know at this point. We're just going to have some fun. We don't know at this point if Bumrah is going to make himself available, Shami, etc., etc. But names that you just want to see part of the setup now. Harshal Patel, Dan.
I think he has to. I think he complements the death bowling options, and that slower ball is probably the best in world cricket at the moment.
Akshar Patel, Robbie.
Oh yes, I think just the way he's bowled in the first 6 overs, he puts his hand up, because for instance, if your swing bowlers are going to get tonked around in the first couple of overs, it's always good to have an option of a spin bowler right up in front, and he provides that option. It's a great option to have. As in, Ashwin is another one who can do it, but and they'll have to pick between Ashwin, Jadeja, and Akshar. So who are they going to pick? Again, problem of plenty there.
Dan, Chahal.
I would have said yes before Robbie outlined all the bowlers that are in front of him. So look, I think watching Chahal bowl when Chahal's at his best, he's so much fun to watch, and so you probably get a slight bias from me to say that I just love watching him bowl, love watching him attack batsmen. But the reality is that there may be guys ahead of him. So unless they're resting people, he probably doesn't make that squad at the moment. But there's no reason why he can't come back into it at a later stage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that we can only judge on one performance, but the fact is, in this series, you think Ashwin, and that's my last player for you, Robbie, would has made a significant
Oh
impression. So
yeah,
Ashwin certainly part of it.
100%. Walks in. One of your main spinners, frontline spinners, I think, moving forward.
All right, brilliant. Now, before we wrap things up, maybe just a quick word from Dan Vettori on New Zealand. And yes, our sympathies are with them if they did one at their best, but was it still disappointing by the standards of at least some players, Dan, who may not have been part of at least the T20 setup, the likes of Tim Seifert, Glenn Phillips too? Yes, they've been in bubbles. So do you extend that sympathy to them, or do you feel these are opportunities missed for players of that T20 reputation and pedigree?
I think so from a batting perspective. I think the bowlers got them so far in that T20 World Cup, and I think they went a long way to getting them to that final. And the batting group would be disappointed. There hasn't been any standout performance really. Guptill has probably been our best batsman in this series and our most experienced batsman in these conditions. But ultimately, the conditions looked pretty good for batting, and it was always going to be a challenge for the bowlers. But the batting group never put that big score up. And the likes of Seifert and Glenn Phillips didn't have the tours they would wanted. So, look, I think that's where they'll be critical within themselves. That is a batting unit. We need to be better. We need to give our bowling unit 180, 190 most games, and particularly when you're in India, when the wickets are conducive to that sort of scoring. So that would be the only reflection. But I also think they'll move on pretty quickly because they just have to.
Yeah, I believe Trent Bolt's already checked in. He's at the airport now. So that's how quickly he would have been wanting to just get out of this. It's not available for the tests too. But that's where we head next. It's the end of a season of T20 cricket. And it's been great fun chatting about it with Robbie Uthappa and Dan Vettori. Robbie, you've enjoyed this series, I hope. It won't be long before we see you again on our
I,
network.
I have. I've had a lot of fun. It's always great to talk about cricket and learn so much as well along the way because you pick up little nuances from cricketers and then you pick up so much from experts speaking, you speaking, and you just learn so much. So I think it's a game where you just continuously learn. So I've had a lot of fun and I see that this bubble is stressful on you also, Ronak. So
Yeah.
you should go and get some rest, bro.
What's giving it away? I wonder what gave it away. But anyway, no. But I must. I've been getting this comment on our social lives through our series, and a lot of people want to know whose picture is that in Robbie Uthappa's backdrop. It's a painting, I
So
think.
that's
So let's get a full frame from our producer. Dan can enjoy. There we are. Just
Yes,
on his
yes.
left shoulder.
I want that answer too.
So that's essentially there's this artist actually. Her name is Akian Kramik. So she's a self-taught painter, and she writes some poems as well. And she's a fantastic artist. And she drew that portrait when she was 8 years old. It's her interpretation of Jesus Christ. She painted that
Wow,
when she was 8. Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Hey, well,
Fascinating. All
yeah.
right, that's so good to know. Brilliant on that, Robbie. Thank you very much, Dan. You could be getting one of
Yes.
those yourself now for the next time you join us, which is soon, a test series,
that'll be
and
far better timings as well. I'm excited
yeah,
about
yeah.
that.
You never know. I'm shocked they didn't squeeze in the daylight test in that. Maybe they'll do that in the next few days.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's how the BCCI rolls. Anyway, we leave it there. Thank you, Ravi Uthappa. Thank you, Daniel Vittori. A pleasure getting your thoughts on ESPN Cricket Info T20 timeout. It's a pleasant and you could say auspicious start for Rohit Sharma as T20I captain full time. 3 tosses, 3 wins, and a good start to India, at least after a forgettable World Cup. We now move our attention to the tests. Do join us then on ESPN Cricket Info T20 timeout.